So we looked at this,
We did. And
but it wasn't clear.
Yeah, so unit cost is really a unit cost because we will have a unit cost set up as a default on those things. And that unit cost is gonna be for an inch, for a linear foot, for a pound, for a gallon, for
I'll change it.
whatever that
I'll go back
unit
later and
measure
change it.
is.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then the total is gonna be units times amount will extend over to a total.
Will, do I minimize this or X out of it to be able to?
You can close either the tab. If you go all tabs, it'll just close you out of Internet Explorer. If you close the current tab, it'll just close you out of this to help.
I just don't know what I'm doing here for you guys right now. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back later and fix those. But then the other quick question, if I may, on this one, and there may be others that we have in this later with pure water, this is a different type of rate for us. Hold on, how come I can't get to that? There we go. So all the rest of them are flat dollar rates. This one is it's a flat dollar rate, and then it goes back to the table of 1, 2, 3 for regular, overtime, and double time. This one is cost plus a percentage of a markup, and I didn't know how to do it on the labor.
Yeah, so that rate is the cost plus rate there. So all of these, if you don't go advanced, if you hit advanced, you get into that straight time, overtime, double time pay.
Yeah.
If you stay out here on the percent, then it is a percent or rate of the cost.
Okay, so then we would just change it here
That's correct, and then not use the straight time,
and not
overtime,
use advanced.
double
Okay.
time thing over that.
So
Okay.
material, same thing, 10% down there, right?
Yeah.
And non-purchase materials, 10% too.
Okay,
And then advanced, we don't have those rates in there, right?
right, we don't do the advanced on those.
Okay.
Because advanced are the ones that, so if I go to any other one,
So it says markup there, 10%, labor is 10%. So that'll, actual guy's cost that pulls through will be 10% on labor materials, so that,
how come that doesn't have the thing in there? Oh, because that's equipment, so I didn't do anything on equipment, because equipment's gonna draw from the equipment module. So I've just got labor and material, and then our standard items, I overrode that on the ones that it needed to be changed. So. Right, okay, that's the end of my questions, thank you for your help.
So let's talk a little bit about that equipment, so we're on the same page there. In equipment, the charge rate is the cost to the job, or that's what you set up in the equipment. This would be the billable amount over here. So these rate templates are where you set up the billable amounts to the customer. From a revenue end of it, the equipment's module itself does not have any revenue as far as billing set up. This is the only place the system looks to say, hey, what am I going to charge the customer
how are you doing
for any of these things? It's looking here.
And my understanding is the only thing that we're gonna have as equipment is the big jetter, because everything else is on our fee, standard items.
Gotcha.
Does that sound right to you guys?
I was thinking you guys had a couple of items, like the heat camera, I don't know what you guys call it.
Yeah, but that's in our standard items.
Oh,
So
okay.
sure, standard items. will-
Yeah, and that's another way of getting it in there. You could set up a standard item. And
Do you
take
guys
that
have right now the same charge for the two different jetters?
I have two, no, we don't,
Because you have different sizes,
We have
correct?
electric and we.
but the electric jetter is on our standard items list. And
Okay.
because it doesn't, we have to MR cost on,
Right.
for those, it doesn't come with any cost. So,
Do me a favor, just give me this up and just pull it over on one side of the screen. So, yeah, what she's talking about is she clicked on that standard item override. If we pull that to the side, we can have this other table. So the SM standard item, I think it's tied right there. So the only reason, if she goes to the grid, this is where all of the standard items, and she's got 47 of them so far. and this is the billable rate for those, and then skinny this up. The only reason, just to make sure you guys are cool with that we would want to,
And this is just specific to the SM module. So they're the
Yes.
only ones that touch this
yes,
table.
SM
correct?
standard items are
Okay.
resident to the work orders. And then the only reason I want to go here is because for this specific rate template, I want to override the standard billing rate and say, it's 110, but for this customer, it's only 98. I'm
Right.
swinging them a sweet deal. So those are your standard global billing rates for all of these standard items. And then I can override that for special pricing.
That's correct. So I
Versus
have just a couple like customers that have a
Okay.
special truck
Little
charge or whatever.
horizon.
I got a question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So since you only have one piece of equipment, what's the benefits of having that one piece in the equipment module for tracking other things with it? Is it?
Well, it was a $40,000
I
jetter,
know.
and
Like
Stacy
the cost.
wanted the cost to go back to the bucket that she was depreciating.
So that's the difference, is you're
So-
depreciating that item, the others you're not.
Yeah, again, I think this goes back to Stephanie and Chris talking about how they want to handle that. Right now, the construction jobs are going to go use those because they hit this and then get a fee on what you can rent them or whatever, but
Yeah, it's in our asset bucket, so it was capitalized on and it's depreciating out.
Okay, so
So,
that's the difference.
but we
That is the
we buy other
best.
things that we asset, we just don't do it the same way.
right, yeah, it would be nice to have some consistency.
That's what I'm wondering.
For
Like,
one item,
what was
would
the
it-
trigger that made it go to there? So if it's depreciated in an asset, we have other items that are, yeah, it's a cost, right?
Right, no high dollar cost.
So if we have other items that are in the standard items that meet that cost threshold, why wouldn't we put them in the equipment module?
I don't know that we have anything else that meets that,
Okay,
that's that expensive.
Well,
Did you
But
do that
we
with the
do
electric?
have some things that were purchased into the asset accounts that may be on that list. I think it needs to be audited because we have over the years in the machinery and equipment list, correct me if I'm wrong, Corinne, there's been some small jetters, some snakes, some sewer drains, some,
Yep.
you know, so there's a list of equipments that are in those accounts, which you may be pulling them through a standard item list now, but we've purchased them and depreciated
But-
them and capitalized them
but the
on.
depreciation, the P&L's paying for it in the depreciation, right?
Right,
So
But how
if
you're
you had
getting
them
them on a
standard, if you had them a
ticket-
standard item, you're making the gross margin and you're paying for the depreciation, it's all in the same bucket. to
that's why I
me.
said it'd be nice to kind of look at all the pieces and then decide, you know, how, are we gonna handle them all consistently, or are we gonna look at, are these already booked out, so the book value is zero anyway, because we've already depreciated, you know, they're fully depreciated at this point?
So that's an invisibility to me. I
Right,
have zero idea.
Yeah,
so Don, and I think you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the equipment module doesn't have a depreciation, or does it?
Yeah, straight line and declining
That's
balance
right, it just
only.
didn't have the one that we did, right?
It doesn't have tax depreciation. It doesn't know how to do all that, but it does
No.
straight line or declining balance.
no, we don't do it in Maxwell, it's all out, done in the Thomas Reuter project, and then
so
we
Your own
book it,
depreciation.
book it.
So what I'm trying to find out is benefits, like if the system automated that and the equipment module to do the depreciation, then we would put it in there, but if we're not utilizing for that, it really doesn't matter.
I guess the only other option would be, would you want to have somewhere you had repair and maintenance costs of those jetters? You know, which is the other functionality of the equipment module, is to be able to track ownership or repair and maintenance, the cost of owning, repairing, maintaining that piece of equipment.
I just think we're not doing a bunch of backhoes and for us.
Totally.
So when we buy a $3,000 ProPress tool, we would buy it as an asset, we pay the depreciation in the department, and we have a standard fee every time we use it of 15, or what is the ProPress?
Well, what I'm getting at is if depreciate, we take that out because we're not going to do that within the system as far as automated. They do that on a separate program, so we could take that out. Now, if you keep in mind any other items that are in the standard items that you do want to perform maintenance on and have a scheduled maintenance on and stuff like that, then maybe those types of items we'd move over to equipment just for that functionality. But otherwise, why would we?
Right, why is the jetter get?
I would rather not have it where it goes back, and, I think right now all Juanita does is when we move costs and we sell the jetter at $150 an hour, we're costing it at 50% of that to our job cost, and it's going against the asset.
Mhm.
That's where I don't know what Stacy and Chris and Stephanie's
So currently what
philosophy's
we
gonna
do
be.
that with the jetter and with the camera. we MR costs onto the job so that there are costs on the job, and then we use that price for the sell price.
Where we were before, we always saw high margin in jetting jobs because we billed for the jetter, but we didn't have it costed. But we were paying for it on depreciation down in the bottom of the P&L. So you had higher gross margin, but you had the cost down below there. I just want whatever's easy and automated. And if there's a bunch of steps to go put cost to it, is it worth that if you just have higher margin? And it just depends on what Stacy wants to see about against that specific item.
Right.
Cost to the work order.
I mean, she was trying to find a way, how
Right
soon do I
there.
pay for the jetter when I see the costs going back?
What's the cost?
Wow.
So
What's that?
she just said something interesting. So this is why we have this column in Vista. So click here, let's maximize this just so we can see the whole table here. Okay, so on the standard items, we've been focusing on this billable rate over here. But notice what column I have available to me if I want to use that. Remember you just said
Right.
there's
so
a cost of
there's
that.
a cost of that. So on the,
That's what the cost column for is. This is the revenue, what I'm billing my customer. If I don't put a cost, guess what Vista thinks?
No cost.
Yeah. It's full revenue.
so
You're
we
billing
get,
with no cost associated with it.
so we could put in the $62.50 for the camera.
I'm just saying, we don't
Here.
want to do that unless it's going somewhere to relieve something. That's all I'm saying. If you're paying for it down in a depreciation, we don't want to cost it.
You just,
There's an offset account, I
Yeah.
think, that you can pull in, so you could just put it to the job and offset your depreciation account.
so you might be able to do it all within standard items.
Look at what this is.
Yeah. So from a cost standpoint, your billable thing is spot on. But when we think about costs, what would that cost be? We would need a cost type. Do me a favor, hit F4 and do a lookup. This is your labor, material, equipment rented, et cetera. They're the standard cost types we have everywhere in the system. So if it's a cost, we got to tell it, well, what kind of cost is it? And then cancel out of here. And then what account do I want to offset that cost? And then we point to that. So if there is none, then it's full revenue and you have no cost on your work order report is thinking, hey, I got revenue, I got no costs. So that's something.
Some of these fees are just to recover general operations. So when you talk about a truck charge, you're paying for your fuel, and so you're driving your insurance, and it's not going to specific P&L, it's just adding.
But it could be, if you think about this, similar to how we're handling burden costs, then it could be offsetting some burden account. So if you took items like your fuel and truck charge, you could have your offsetting account be your fuel and truck charge in your burden.
You're contra that already on you're contraing that whole thing as a bucket anyway when you're putting your burden on it, right?
Right, so you're hitting the work order with a burden fee, and it's offsetting the contra account to offset the expenses that you're incurring. So, I mean, like I said, this is something that can still be on the table. We don't have to make that decision today.
Yep.
I'm just saying, if you wanted to approach this, you could categorize these costs. There may be some that you decide, okay, on these particular costs, and we can talk as a group and decide, okay, on these particular costs, these are substantial enough that we would want to go ahead and set up some offset accounts and recoup costs specifically on these. And then these other ones, we're really not concerned about.
Right. So
That's it.
currently, the ones that we do is just the jetter and the cameras, and we could put those costs on here and put those to the right GL account right here.
As long as the
And-
bucket it goes to is specific to that item, not a bucket.
Right, that's what I said. I mean, because right now, there's this 40% black hole of burden costs. Now, I can run all your burden accounts and we can break it out by percent. We can say out of that 40%, these are the primary costs or expenses that we're trying to cover with that. So if we want to fine tune that a little bit as your department grows, maybe we want to approach this a little more with some complexities and categorize that.
Well, I know last year
instead
we-
of the big 40% where you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so right now in Maxwell, we're doing this big manual adjustment between construction and service, and recapturing some of the traveling between divisions, where in Vista, you know, it's really going to be tracking by wherever everybody's working in what division. So just being able to identify with your burden cost being as high it is, making that up a little clearer. You know, I'm just saying, let's table, you know, we know this ability now, let's shelf the
Okay, I
discussion.
just want you to know
And then
that.
we can kind of go back and look at what makes sense, and do we want to break this up into a couple categories and
Yeah.
maybe develop.
I just said the
system.
majority of these are just a small cost thing that we're getting, so if there were a big one.
That's why I
so
said there
forgive
may
you.
be 4 items that you want to
Right.
throw into a special category.
Right.
Exactly. Okay.
Well, that's cool. I did not
So
know that existed.
That's sitting right in there, so I just want to make sure that when necessary, we could use that to take care
Does
of
that
those
make
items.
sense?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so we'll.
Because I think that's a philosophy, and it's gotta be with, Stacy's gotta be okay with it too, and match depending on how we
Well,
want.
it's got to be okay with, you know, the approach that you guys want to go towards certain types of, because it would be for all work orders, for all preventative maintenance, it would hit all items, so it would just be.
I mean, there's times we might even borrow something from the tool room for a day,
What?
return it back, and then bill the customer for it with one of our standard costs.
All right, deals off. No.
The generator, for example.
Okay.
At least you know the functionality.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So 47, you're building that, and you're good with that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
built.
pretty complete.
47
Yeah,
is
it's pretty
close
complete.
to being in
Yeah.
what you got. Okay.
Same with our labor rates. Our labor rates are done other than anything new that comes up because of contracts. or
We
something.
tried to minimize our price books to what we have, and I think we only have, what, how many price books do we have, Gene? 16 or 17 or something? So not even less than that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're trying to control those, and a lot of those go into that, so.
Pull it up. I don't know what you mean by
Pull the window up, it tells you the amount
Oh, thank you.
at the bottom there.
Oh, 13.
13.
Now we're at 13.
I have to learn all your guys' signals and
Yeah,
rules
skinny
for
up,
running
pull up.
this. I don't know. I gotta give a girl a break.
There you go. Okay.
Is that the GUI language?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what?
So I'm just going down my little list of things.